Now let's switch gears and talk more politics, as the Future Now project is taking the spotlight, where the demand for a generational shift in Nigeria's leadership has taken center stage. The Future is Now project is pushing for 70% youth representation in the House of Representatives, state assemblies and local governments, with at least half of executive appointments at federal and state levels reserved for Nigerians under 40. Organizers argue that the Not Too Young to Run Act may have opened the door, but real political power is still out of the reach of most young Nigerians. Well, joining me tonight to make sense of some of these demands as well as the political atmosphere in the country ahead of the 2027 general elections is Honorable Salisu Yakassai, a political commentator and a youth advocate. We'll be asking the most important question: can Nigeria's youth finally move from protest grounds and social media into the chambers of power? Honorable Yakassai, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, Malabla, for having me. Good evening, viewers.
Right. Let's talk about the obvious. Is this going to be one of those efforts where a lot of energy will be expended towards making the right calls, making the right moves, but the inevitability of the end result would be the same as what we experienced in 2015, 2019, 2023?
First of all, I want to thank you for having me to discuss this all-important issue of youth inclusion, not just in politics but also in governance. And it's important to look at where we are as a nation and also look at how far we've come. Just yesterday we celebrated 65th independence celebration of our independence in Nigeria. And funny enough, it coincides with about 26 years of uninterrupted democracy from 1999 to date. If I can start by giving you a bit of a statistics, a bit of a numbers, so you can comprehend the magnitude of what we are talking about. From 1999 to date, 26 years since the coming of this dispensation, population of Nigeria is about 230-something million. Out of that 230-something million, we are talking about 60% of that number. We are talking about 140 million that have been born from 1999 to date. In December 2000, I contested for councillorship as 25 years ago, you understand? And to think that out of the population of Nigeria that we have, 140 million of that number are younger people, you know, between the ages of 1 to 25, 26. So that gives you an idea of where we are as a nation. Is it a nation of young people? Is it a nation of you can't just do anything without them? So talking about this being another effort that might not really yield the desired result, there's no harm in trying. You know, you have to keep trying. You fall one time, you try. What's that saying? You try.
You fall once, you rise up twice.
You rise up twice. You understand? We cannot give up. We can't afford to give up, because just because there have been attempts in the past that have not yielded the desired result, even though I beg to differ, there are some degree of results, probably not at the level that we want it to be, because in your introduction you made mention of the Not Too Young to Run bill. It's a bill. It's as we have a constitutional backing that young people of certain age can aspire and contest for, and we have someone less than 30 who happens to be the youngest member in the National Assembly, particularly the House of Reps. So there have been results, you know, of course not as where we want it to be, but that does not mean we should give up. We cannot give up. We can't afford to give up. We have to keep trying, and this is one of those efforts that we have decided to come together. The future is now. You know, like you rightly said, it's not about tomorrow again. When we were kids, we are told that tomorrow we are the leaders of tomorrow, and then now we are getting old, and then the leaders of today are being told that they are also leaders of tomorrow. So we have to make the effort. We have to continue to support the younger generation. We are, like someone said yesterday, our generation is almost lost. in the scheme of things in this country. So we want to ensure that what we lacked from our elders, we try to provide for the upcoming generations. How do we bring them together? How do we, the little experience that we have, the little guidance that we can give to them, how do we do that to ensure that we put them on the right path?
Right. How do you respond to people who say, listen, this is all fair and good, but Nigerian youths over the years have developed this sense of political entitlement, that just because they are going to be the future of this country, they deserve to get power.
Yeah.
Do you believe that Nigerian youths have a sense of entitlement, that they need to be in leadership position just because they are young?
Not necessarily. I don't think they just want to be on the table because of their age or anything. It's because they have that belief, the passion, the desire, the vision, you understand, to see a better Nigeria. This is all the younger people are asking for. Because obviously fathers and forefathers have, fathers and those that are above them, have failed. Since the foundation that our forefathers have laid, unfortunately, I keep saying this, the quality of leadership keeps going down and down and down and down. So we do have a number of young people. Look at the current administration. I can count from number of young people that are doing amazing, manning federal agencies that are under 30 and doing incredible work. You understand? So it's not just about the age, but it's about we understanding what the current realities of lives are. We having the capacity, and the competence, to use modern techniques in providing solutions and the desired result where our fathers have failed. And this is what we are saying, And I always say that it's not just about taking a position. What do you do with it? Because in terms of delivery, it has never been about the age. We have seen a 70-year-old that has not performed, that has not delivered. We have seen a 50-year-old that has not delivered, and we have also seen a younger person that has not delivered.
But isn't the argument about age?
It's not just generally about age, it's not solely about age.
Right.
It's about competence, it's about understanding where we are as a nation and where we need to be. So the reason why the issue of age keeps coming up is that our leaders don't want to retire. They say the civil service retirement age is 60, but we have presidents, senators and what have you at the age of 70, 80. You understand? So they just simply don't want to, usher in a fresh mind, fresh set.
Is Nigeria any different if you zoom out and consider what you have in Europe, what you have in Asia, what you have in North America?
Absolutely.
In terms of how old the leadership circle is?
And it varies depending on where you are looking at it. So I always say, you understand, that it is not just a Nigerian problem, it's an African problem. Look at, if I can give you in our continent, if I can give you an example of Senegal, look at what they did. The older generation tried as much as possible to make sure that the younger generation did not take over power. But because they are determined, because they had a plan, because they had a vision of what they wanted to do, they were able to succeed. The president of Senegal, as of today, is the youngest African president that we have. And they had a plan and they orchestrated it and made sure that they succeed. So largely, globally, if you look at it, people or bigger countries are trying to see as much as possible that they bring in fresh ideas, fresh minds, to be able to navigate through the challenges of the current world as it is. So I think Nigeria should not be any different, and I think realistically speaking, it might be hard to just say we want a new generation of leaders from, say, the president, the governors at that level. So that is why we are going down. Already, if you talk about the local government chairman, is now being occupied significantly by younger people. You know, if you look at state assembly, equally, it's also being occupied. But we want the number to increase, you understand? Not just at the state level, but also the House of Reps level, so that the Senate can be the retirement palace of older generation, but at least up to the House of Reps level. Let's see at least this 3 to 4 years of government. Let's see what we can have. And like I said, it's not just about occupying the seat. You know, we have to hold their hands, we have to work together, we have to support them. This pull me down syndrome that we seem to have in Nigeria, I think we need to have a rethink. You know, if someone shows the capacity, shows the ability to deliver, he needs the support. You know, he cannot do it 100% all the day alone. He will need the support of others. You know, he needs to have a team, because the ability to assemble the right team is one of the major component of leadership. You know, so have the right team, you know, to support the younger people so that we can see a positive result.
And usually in politics, right, you talked about Senegal, and we know what it took for not just Diomaye Faye, but Sanko himself, who has had to give up his own ambition, because the Macky Sall administration was very hard on their movement, right? What, in your view, is the explanation for how much sacrifice young Nigerians have made politically to put themselves in a position where they feel they are deserving of what they're asking for?
I think we haven't done that much sacrifice, because like you said, the initial, the number one person that was gunning for the presidency in Senegal wasn't the one that ended up being elected. When the government focused on him, you know, in the last minute, he sacrificed his ambition and, you know, asked the current president to step in. So that's a huge sacrifice. That shows selflessness. Understand? And this is what I think our own generation needs to emulate. You know, it's not just about it has to be you, it has to be me. It has to be, you know, in terms of who has more qualification, who has more experience, more competency to, who is the best candidate. It should be about that. You know, it shouldn't be just about supporting one another. And that sacrifice, that patriotism, that whatever we are doing is for the development of our nation, of our people as a whole, and not just for our personal gains. It needs to be, you know, emphasized. You need to bring it out into the open. We need to make sure that, you know, that is the driving force behind whatever it is that we are trying to do. So these are some of the things that I think the younger generation need to focus on, especially in Nigeria. But not just that, you know, there has to be the ability to coordinate. I always keep saying this, you know, because deliberately, the older generation, they are trying so hard to divide us, you know, divide and conquer. If they see us working together, they'll, you know, go behind the scenes and pull you out, so that we cannot have that united front. So it has to do with the ability to coordinate and organize ourselves. You understand? And we have the numbers, we have what it takes. If only we can have the right mindset and work with a plan, with a strategy, well, it will be very easy to achieve. And
in talking about, you know, the approach, right? We understand how politics itself, not just here in Nigeria, it's very tricky. It's about strategy. It's about a lot of calculations. It's about horse trading, right? Yeah. Do you think this cap-in-hand approach of saying, we demand this, we want this, is actually going to get the younger demographic what they need as far as having a place at the table is concerned?
Yeah, like I said earlier on, it's not just about the demand. It's having a plan, having a strategy, and this is one among many, you understand. And it has to be for the long run. It cannot be, whatever we are doing is not just for 2027, because 2027 is just around the corner. In the next few months, we'll be talking about primary elections and all that. So it's just, you know, around the corner. And of course, you know, the Nigerian politics of money bags, you know, using money, you know, to make sure that those of us without money don't don't get a seat at the table. So it has to be a long-term plan. You know, we have to start now, but ultimately I always tell this to a lot of my political associates and friends, that by the time President Muhammadu Buhari left office, he left with a lot of his contemporaries. Those that are left now, I assure you, a number of them will also leave, whether by choice or by force, in 2027. And
why do you say that?
Because of the age. It's no longer the age is no longer on their side. Some of them are 80, some of them are more than that, some of them are approaching 80. Understand? So it's only natural that they have to take a back seat, you know. So it keeps time, keeps removing them from the system, and then replacing it with a younger generation. If you look at the set of governors that we have now, you understand the average age is in the early 50s, averagely, if you look across board. Some of them are little less than 50, some of them are in early 50s, few of them are in 60s or thereabout. So you can see how it's coming down. And a lot of these ones are working with people that are younger than them. So you have a lot of people in the state government, within the age bracket of 40 and thereabout or less, you understand. So you do have, but like I said, the plan is to have a long-term plan of how do we ensure that by 2027, more fresh minds and fresh ideas get into the system, and by 2031, which is just about 6 years from now, you understand, by that time, we will be the leaders. We will be either the governors or what have you. And
is that estimation based on just a natural trajectory, or
this is how the political terrain has been? Right.
There are people who are still in the mix today who were in the mix in 1992.
But how many of them? List them. List them, and you can count them.
You talk about the current leadership. Two of the three most talked about people.
Yeah, two
today. I'm saying of the most talked about.
I understand.
Right.
So, but if you look at the rest, right, they are younger than them. You understand? And
so you're saying nature is on your side.
It is, by whether they like it or not.
Right.
Nature is what and the two that you're talking about, what role would they play in the next 2 years, 4 years from today?
One of them is already in office.
And then the other one is trying to get into office.
Right.
But look at it. Look at where they are. So what I'm saying is that if we are strategic and visionary in our plan, it's just a matter of time. You understand? That leadership, generational change in leadership will happen. You understand? And the idea is that if it gets to our level, we have seen, where those that have come before us have gone wrong. So how do we ensure that we don't make the mistakes that they did? We have to groom. One of the major things that I always see, particularly in northern Nigeria, is the lack of political mentorship. You understand? You realize that, of course, we do have older generation of politicians working with younger ones, but is it to support them, to give them the free hand to operate fully? No. It's usually to do their bidding. You understand? So they are not fully independent, But what we are saying is that make sure that you give them the guidance, the necessary tools. You mentor them. You understand? Let it be a teaching phase. You understand that? First of all, you need to understand, you need to organize yourself. Secondly, you need to work together. Thirdly, you need to have a plan. And fourthly, when you get into office, you need to deliver. So it has to be a long-term plan of what it is that we want to see. And this is what the Future Project, the Future is Now project is all about.
And talk to me about some of the past initiatives and projects that I believe you've been a part of.
Yeah.
There have been several of them.
Yeah.
What, in your view, is the best way to assess the performance in terms of impact?
Yeah.
Because some would consider them failed projects because you haven't delivered. We have not succeeded in putting a lot more young people in the National Assembly, in the government houses. Yes, like you pointed out, some of the governors we have right now, or even members in the National Assembly, are relatively younger compared to the people they took over from. But in your view, what usually goes wrong with movements like this?
Two things, and I have said this several times, and in almost all the movements that I've been a part of, I've said two things that usually derail the movement. You know, the first one is the greed for power. You know, this one has to be the chairman, this one wants to be the secretary, this one wants to be the, organizing secretary and all that, and so that scramble for positions, you understand? And you can understand why, because they are the ones that represent the rest of the people, and they are the ones that get invited for closed-door meetings. So they are all interested in that positions, you know, so that they can take advantage of the access that they have representing the rest of the movement. That's issue number one. Issue number two is resources. Resources in the sense that you cannot have any movement, you know, without resources to fund it. You know, you need resources to organize, you need resources to carry out your activities, even, you know, engagements and publicity and all this. It costs resources. We do not have the resources to do that. So usually, this is usually what happens. And this resources is a two-way thing, you know. Apart from this one that I gave an example of, you also have, you know, like those that are not interested in seeing the success of such movements will pump in money into the movement, and then that resource will become divider, so to say, you know, in such movements. So these two key issues are usually the two results that the two issues that usually, you know, kill some of these movements, you know. So for any movement to succeed, you have to find a mechanism to go around this. And for me, what I always say is that one such mechanism, you know, is to have the right, the like minds, you know, people that you can vouch for, you know, you from their track record, you've seen them, you see, because greed will always rear its ugly head. If you see anyone with such tendencies, do not give him a seat to, or a leading role, you know, to play any major leading role. So, you know, like minds is one of the ability to collect the like minds that will come together and work selflessly, you know, for any agenda or any movement such as this, is one of the key things that I think the young people need to focus on if they really want to succeed. Right.
And explain to me the concept here, because you belong to the PRP last time I checked.
Yeah. Today I'm in APC.
Oh, today you're in APC?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But of course you were the PRP gubernatorial candidate in Kano. Talk to me about where others, your comrades, belong to, because in movements like this we usually see a coalition form, young people from different political groups or political associations or political parties coming together. Is this something outside of your main political party that you hope to coalesce with your political party? What is the plan here?
Yeah, so the future is now, what we are advocating is that irrespective of the party you belong, because we have people from different political parties, APC, PDP, ADC, Labour.
Is your party okay with this?
Very okay. There's no
fraternizing with folks from the other side?
There's right to free association.
Right.
You know, and it's for the, what we are saying is that belong to your political party, but try from within push the agenda of youth inclusion, you know, at different status of the structure of governance, you understand? So that is what we are saying. We don't have to all be in the same political party, PRP, SDP, whatever it is. Be whatever you want to belong, because politics is local, like they always say. So be in the political party you want to belong, but at least know that, you know, you can use your influence within that party, you can use your position, if you have any, to advocate, you know, for more youth inclusion in governance and in politics.
And talk to me about what lies ahead. How high are the stakes for Nigerian youths come 2027? Because, I mean, you look at where the country is right now, economically speaking, when you talk about the unemployment rates, when you talk about insecurity, the restiveness in the country itself is quite palpable. you talk about migration, which has become a very serious concern right now. We're losing young, intelligent professionals to other climes just because the opportunities over there are much more greener, and some might even add the societies are a lot more safer.
Yeah.
What is at stake for Nigerian youths come 2027?
I think the question isn't what is at stake for the youth only, but what is at stake for the country, the region, and the continent at large. Nigeria being the most populous black nation, you understand, the number of the population is huge, that you can't afford to have anything, you know, that would destabilize the peace and stability of the country. We have seen how this young generation, you know, what they did in Nepal. We have seen how they toppled a government and how it went out of control, you understand. They may have succeeded in changing the government, but look at the damage, you know, that they have done. In Nigeria, we have seen how the NSAS ended and the damage that has caused. We have seen in the most recent protests, I think last year, then bad governance protests, particularly in the northern region, how that translated into violence and the loss of lives and so on and so forth. So what we are saying is that what is at stake is, you know, the country as a whole, even the region, West Africa as a whole, because we cannot afford to have this large number of people, you know, talking about almost under 40, we are talking about almost more than 70% of the population that are under 40 years old. You understand? I'm more than 40, so I'm not even in that category, you can imagine, you know. So imagine these numbers without a proper coordination, without proper guidance, without, you know, putting them together and guiding them and making sure that, you know, they are working for the betterment of the country. Imagine that. Imagine the catastrophe that, you know, something like Nepal happened. So what is at stake, and this should be of concern to everyone, you know, from the president down to, you know, the village ward head, anyone at any position of authority, you know, you cannot afford to have this large number of young people, you know, just, you know, roaming around with poverty, with illiteracy, with, you know, all sorts of vices, you know, drug abuse and so on and so forth, you know. So it has to be a coordinated effort by all the different stakeholders, you know, not just those in government, but also those in the development sector, those in the civil society spaces, and so on and so forth, including individuals like you and I, maybe to make it bigger, the media as a whole, you understand, representing a large percentage of the society. So it has to be a collective effort by all these different stakeholders, you know, a deliberate one, in ensuring that this large number of young people that we have in this country, you know, are not allowed to go astray or to take matters into their own hands. There is need to make sure that they work in harmony and in tandem with what, you know, is being laid for the development of this country as a whole.
All right.
I think so.
Still early days, but 2027 is still hovering around the national polity when it comes to governance, accountability, and a whole lot more about the lives and livelihoods of Nigerians. Honorable Salisu Yakassai, thank you so much for joining us on the program. It's good to see you again. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you very much, Olabula, and thank you for having me.
Right. All right. That is it for our show tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us on Daily Politics. We'll be back tomorrow, live and exclusive on Trust TV as always. Feel free to be a part of our next edition. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. For myself and the rest of the team, thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.